Hey, Lenormand friends, I'm Lisa Young Sutton, and today I am sharing my fast and easy box interpretation method that is like the Cliff Notes version of a grand tableau. You'll be able to see the answer in a box in 3 minutes or less. In fact, sometimes you'll be able to see the answer in a few seconds. Before we begin, if you would be so kind, please give the video a like if you find it helpful and subscribe to my channel as I post new videos weekly. Okay, let's look at the box in front of you. The question for this spread was brought by a young man named Sam. Sam wants to know if now is a good time for him to leave his job that he's been at for 4 years and go back to school for his master's degree. I asked the cards to show how his plan will play out based on his current thoughts, feelings, and actions. Now, the answer is clear, and I was able to see it in a matter of seconds. Do you see it? Do you know where to look? Remember one thing. X marks the spot. Okay? Just as pirates, excuse me, just as pirates drew an X on their maps to show where the treasure was buried, the box spread gives you an X to find your treasure. Now keep in mind that my basic box interpretation method never changes. I read almost every line spread as a story, which means I don't have to stop and think. I just look at the cards and I do what I always do. I do the same with tableaus. I stick to my method. And I always read left to right. Now you can read right to left, it doesn't matter, but my point is stick to it. Stick to your method. Okay, so because I read left to right, even when I read my diagonals, I read them left to right, which means I'm reading what I call the direct diagonal this way, right? We've got 159, but I read my indirect diagonal this way, starting at the bottom because I'm still reading left to right. All right, so I read 753. Okay, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the reading the the diagonals in an X. Okay, now do you see the answer? Look at that X. All right, here, we'll look at it. He will make a choice. That's the ways. Is he making a choice to make himself bigger or smaller? We have the bear next. Is he going to exert authority or hold back? Now, don't get lost in the bear card. If you start thinking about the bear, you might say, well, the bear wants to protect what it has. It wants to hibernate. Or you might see the bear as his current boss who makes him an offer to stay. Don't do that. Keep floating in the energy stream of the question. Always stay focused on your question and don't get lost on the myriad of keywords and combination meanings. That's what messes readers up. Okay? Stay in the flow. Now, to see what the bear is going to do next, just look at the next card. The ship. Is the ship the card of movement or no movement? Is it staying or going somewhere? The ship is our primary travel card, and it speaks of big adventures, big trips, big changes, right? The indirect diagonal shows that it will take some effort. Here we got the indirect diagonal. Remember I said I start down here at box 7. So it says that it's going to take some effort and it won't be without conflict or disagreement, but he's going to push through. He's going to push through that and reach for the stars. Okay, so we already have a yes answer. But if it's that simple, why do we ever have to read all the cards in the spread? Well, because not every box is that simple, but the answer is there. So imagine if the diamond cards, these are the diamond cards. They're the cards that aren't part of your primary X, right? So imagine if the diamond cards were all unfavorable to your question. What if they were all negative cards that you didn't want to see show up because he really wants to go back to school, right? In that case, you'd have to go through the rest of the steps to find your answer. All right, so I'm going to share them right now. You always start your box spread by first scanning all the cards you want to find at least one that connects to your question. And if none connect to the topic that you're asking about, that tells you that there are other issues that need to be looked at before the seeker can even consider the question they're asking. Now here, the topic is college, right? And we have the tower that represents the university, as well as his ambition to get ahead and rise above in a company, right? That's what it's all about. So yes, we have a card here related to our subject. Then you look for the cards that support the desired or anticipated outcome versus those that are at odds with it. And here, the only cards that are against what he wants to do, or that, any negative cards to his question, are the scythe and the whip. We only have 2 out of 9 cards. So the scythe and the whip are showing points of tension in the spread. Now, the scythe is a major influencer because it's in the top row. And it's about making an abrupt decision and taking a risk in order to reap something. Remember that before the harvest, there's always a cut. So the scythe always warrants caution. Now, when you have single negative cards in a tableau with only positive cards touching them, they aren't quite as negative then, right? Now, do we have any negative cards touching the scythe? No. Good. All right. So I move to the whip. It's in the supporting position, supporting being the bottom row, right? It's in the supporting position of the first column. I'm going to get into rows and columns and what they mean in a second. Okay. So because it's in this position 7, it shows the main cause of the issue, which is conflict. All right, the main cause, the main reason for this inquiry, we could say, right? We could say that he wants to clean something up that he doesn't agree with. That's why he's even considering leaving his good job that he's been growing in for 4 years, right? That he's been advancing in. And he wants to give all that up, but this is why, right? He's not agreeing with where things are going. All right, so after this scan, you jump right into your method. Don't get lost by overanalyzing each card, by staring at combinations that you might recognize and trying to figure out what they mean. Don't get lost in all that. See the box as a grouping of lines and shapes, right? We have 3 columns, we have 3 rows, we have a cross, we have 4 corners, and we have a diamond. All right. Now I knock out my rows and columns by reading them together to form one statement. And I'm going to show you how I do that in a minute. But we want to go in order here. So after I scan the cards, what's the next thing I do? I look at cards 1 and 5. I don't really want to pay attention to 9 yet because I might be tempted to let this single card here give me my answer. And you need to, there's a reason why you leave 9 cards. You got to look at all of them. But cards 1 and 5 are significant. 1 is called the trigger. It shows what triggered the inquiry. It's where the story begins. And card 5 is the focal point. All the cards touch it. It tells you what's at the heart of the matter, the main theme that's going to determine the answer. Now, if you're a new reader, you might want to place a significator card in the middle, just as if you were reading a grand tableau and you would search for a life area card and you would read around it. So a lot of new readers place a middle card there, and that's fine when you're first starting out, right? But if I had done that, I would have placed the book there to represent going to school. But by letting this card fall naturally, I got to see what's really at the heart of his quandary, because we already know that he's asking about the possibility of returning to school. I didn't need to place the book there. But the fact that the bear landed there tells me what he really wants to know is, can he manage his resources? And will this, change enable him to take charge of his life and bring in more prosperity. He wonders if the benefits will outweigh the cost. So all that I'm getting from the Bear card. By letting this card fall naturally, you truly find out what the seeker really wants to know or needs to know. All right, so after looking at cards 1 and 5, I look at the corners. And I like to go there next because they show the overriding influences or the external circumstances involved in this. They describe what's acting on or causing the issue, and they're either going to support or challenge the focus card. All right? So what we can see in the corners is that he's at a crossroads in his life because he disagrees with the path he's on. And the crossroads always says you can't keep going straight, right? You have to either turn right or left. So if he does, he's going to follow his dreams, right? And the draw of the open sea is calling him. He longs for adventure. He longs to expand his horizons. He longs for something more. This is about going out and getting something more, right? Okay. So how are you going to interpret the columns and the rows? Well, columns can always be laid in a past, present, future, format. You can always look at them in that way. Though I prefer to call it a progression of time and energy, so that if this were an all future spread, the columns move across left to right, showing how the energy will progress. Okay. Now you might notice already that we only have one negative card in column 1. We have one negative card in column 2, but we don't have any in column 3. So, as you can see, the progression is already improving. Okay. Now, rows, right? Rows are read across. Okay. These are rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Rows influence each other because cards on top weigh on cards below. So an easy way to look at them is to see the top row as thoughts, fears, and hopes that are influencing the situation. The middle row can be looked at as the manifested reality right now. What stares you in the face? What's obvious? What's currently happening or what needs to happen right now? And then the bottom row is what's under your control, what you already accept, or what you can rely on. Okay, that's why they call them supporting cards, because you can rely on those. Now, you know what to do with your rows and columns. At this point, when you're reading a box spread, you're probably done once you look at the rows and columns. But what if you're still confused? Well, there's more. Oh, you know what? I didn't tell you how I didn't give you the example of how I read the rows and columns. Okay, let me do that right now. So I combine the first row with the first column, the second row with the second column, and the third row with the third column. And I combine them to form a single statement. All right. So what can we say with the top row in the first column? He's contemplating a change in life, in his life direction, because he sees he has other options. The stars shows that this is a dream of his, and it indicates following your higher guidance and suggests that you're on the right path, even if you can't see the end yet. So it tells you to trust the direction, this new direction, and keep your goals in sight. Now, the side facing it told me that he's ready to throw caution to the wind, or he's ready to throw caution to the stars in this case, because he wants to cash in on a bigger harvest, right? It made me think of Abraham Hicks, who would say he's ready to harvest a big dream that's waiting for him in the vortex, because the stars is the card of the vortex. All right, so then I like I said, I combine that with the first column. So if you move down the first column, you could say that he's going to then, so here's his decision. He's going to make it official. He's going to put it in writing. He's going to fill out the application, disregarding all of the opposing arguments and the effort involved in returning to school as an adult. So remember, this is a supporting card, right? So what he can rely on is that this will be hard work. Okay. Now you combine the middle row and the middle column. So here we have the middle row and the middle column. Okay. So if you read that, we could say he's going to manage his affairs. He's going to go through his expenses and see if he can get his life in order to make this happen. He's willing to take the risk, even though this will cut his current resources, because he has high ambitions, wanting to go all the way to the top of his field, right? That's the tower here on the bottom. And then the bottom row and the bottom column, we combine them. We could say that the hard work and effort he'll put forth will lead to lasting benefits. He's going to rise above the naysayers and explore new territory. The ship represents a big payoff, unlike the standard cash flow indicated by the fish. And then we combine that with the final column. We could say his plan will become a reality and he'll be on his way to all he's dreamed of, right? The stars represents the future, and they are shining for him personally, right? There's the house. This is a journey he's meant to take. The stars are blessing the house and the ship, right? So this is a journey he's meant to take. So he'd better, he'd better buy his ticket and get his big arse out of the house and board the ship. Go, Sam. There you go. All right. So, yeah. All right, so what's the final answer? Well, this is the right decision for Sam. That puts him on the right path, though it won't be without some sacrifices, right? 10, and without some conflict, the whip, and but in the end, the payoff will be great, the ship. All right, now if I had read the diamond, right, I'd start here at the tower. Just because that represents school, right? So if I was going to read the diamond, I would say that the school will notify him that he's made the cut. He'll probably have to move out of his house and into a little apartment that he can afford while he's got virtually no income, right? Oh, and if I wanted to knight, because I'm a big knighter in box spreads, I usually knight cards that confuse me, though I do tend to knight corners and any negative cards just to get more information. So what is the whip knight to? The house and the scythe. We could say that he had an urgent need to leave his comfortable position for something better, right? And then the ways knights to the tower and the tower and the house. His higher guidance is telling him to enroll in college. Oh, that's the stars. Yeah, I'm getting, the stars. Okay, so the ways knights to the tower and the house, his options are to stay home or go to college. The stars, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The stars knights to the letter and the tower, his higher guidance is telling him to enroll in college. And the ship knights back to the letter and the scythe, which told him to go ahead and fill out the application for the program and for financial aid. Be careful to do it right, and you will make the cut and be accepted. All right, that's it for this video, my friends. Thanks, as always, for watching. Now go play with some box spreads. Right, just lay them down for every question and see how fast you can spot the answer. All right, I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.